He'll be all right. Yeah, he'll be all right. Peace, 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 peace. Peace, 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 peace. Everybody, everybody, peace in the house today. I give everybody peace. If you like the teaching today, and if you want to give a donation to Cash App $KG Bay, you can. If you would like a copy of the Exhume of the Nation PDF, a $45 donation, and I'll send it to your email. You can go to Office Max and Staples, and they'll print it and bind it for you. Excuse me. So I'd like to give it a little bit of grace period before I get started. I give everybody honor and love. It's going to be a simple one. As I always explain, you can't arbitrarily explain anything. And you want to be clear. All right, so we'll give it a minute. And this should be a clear understanding for anyone that's confused or just jumping all around and not willing to take the time to really understand what words mean and understanding the words that are coming out of certain individuals' mouths and able to break science down and understand that you can't arbitrarily explain the law. We cannot have a different understanding of law. If that's the case, it's arbitrary. It's arbitrary. So you can't say this works and then it don't work, and you say you understand all facets of law. It just don't work like that. Just like all this black stuff, I don't care what religion you say you are or what religion you say you're not. When you use these words that's synonymous to slave, like Negro, black, and colored, I mean, from even an educational standpoint, a historical standpoint, a legal standpoint, pertaining to nationality, pertaining to understand who you are in the world of nations, you have to know that you're not Negro, black, or colored. All this stuff synchronizes. All this stuff synchronizes. So once again, the joke falls back on the individual that's just barking. I'm telling you, this stuff is elementary. So when we indulge on the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th, we call them Reconstruction Amendments. I call it, and in Exhumed of the Nation, we talk about clandestine reconstruction of slave laws for the United States. That's why Noble Drew Ali and myself continue to issue a profound warning to all Moors and U.S. citizens. Since the United States Constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and citizens. Our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, born in America, just like I am, born in America. That's what makes me a Moorish American. I'm born here in America. We got African descent, and we strip off the covers of the fiend citizenship strategically hidden in the United States Constitution, 14th and 15th Amendments. That's why the Prophet issued a divine warning for the nations when we speak and when he spoke of the pseudo-redemptive powers in the application of those amendments aimed towards our people. When we talk about some status correction, this is too simple. That's why I say, man, your own people got you. Your own people got you. And I continue to break this down over and over. Our Prophet taught, and I taught, through your free national name, you are known and recognized by all nations of the earth that are recognized by said national government in which they live. What my empress say, she said, we in Flint. I got my other phone up. They in Flint. She's like, we need that book. And they just gave $40 donation. Like, and I send it right to you. I'm sorry, y'all. Hold on. I send it right to you. Ain't no problem. But the 14th and 15th Amendments brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners, who were at that time without power, with the constitutional body of power. And at that time, in 1865, the free national constitutional law that was enforced since 1774 declared all men equal and free, didn't it? And if all men are declared by the free national constitution to be free and equal, since that constitution has never been changed, correct, there is no need for the application of the 14th and the 15th Amendments for the salvation of our people and citizens. Check. There's nothing even to sit and argue about. My people lost due to a lack of knowledge because we refuse to learn. It's just a money grab. And I'm not going to argue with nobody because I don't hate on nobody. I just do me and let the chips fall where they may be. And contrary to the training and gross education received in the so-called public schools, which a lot of our children receive, which a lot of adults receive by most American students. When we talk about the Emancipation Proclamation of 1863, it did not free a single Negro, black or colored, the acronym we call NBC, slaves from the legally binding slave laws of the 1779 United States Constitution, which was the 3/5 clause. But not that same can be said of the 13th Amendment of 1865. If you take the time to understand and be like, wait a minute, who's playing a trick on you? These people on the internet. This is the first of the 3 Reconstruction Amendments. Did in fact abolish the institution of slavery, which opened the doors of freedom to all African descents in the North America, right? And make no mistake about it, the 13th Amendment was the greatest and only document of manumission, ever to be enacted by the Congress of the United States. And although the two sections ratified were just watered down versions of the 20 sections. It's 20 sections originally proposed when you do a little further research. Just one section was needed to free all African descents from their mental slavery and constitutional bondage in the United States. Right? But then, after the day in 1865, when the 2 sections passed of the 13 original 20, it only took one of those to free all the slaves. See? You got to remember that the United States has never been without her slaves, a vital ingredient of understanding factual American history. And it's often used by most historians, family. It must also be remembered for the only time in her history that the U.S. ratified 3 major bodies of law into its Constitution, which concern her beloved parcels. These 3 Reconstruction Amendments were written in the exclusive interest of slaves, ex-slaves, and all other Negroes only. When we talk about later in teaching, when we talk about the word Reconstruction, it was used to identify the upgrading of slavery more so than downloading post-war America into a Reconstruction period. And both of these political movements took place at the conclusion of the Civil War. But it is the later which most people assume indicative of what were actually being reconstructed. Without the enslavement of the indigenous people of the West Africa, these laws would have never been ratified into existence. Excuse me. Mint leaf. Good too. Yummy. But in order to understand why the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment, particularly as pertaining to American slaves, ex-slaves, and the granting privileges as opposed to rights, you need to focus briefly on what prompted their ratifications. This enlightenment is necessary because most U.S. citizens were fooled into believing that the USA actually surrendered her slaves with no strings attached. Alas, in the words of our prophet Noble Drew Ali, even a fish would not take the bait, knowing the hook was hidden there. Remember, America is totally unknowledgeable of being a slaveless government, especially chattel slavery. When we talk about machination of a Maya people, has always been a divine issue. And the average time any nation has suffered slavery is about 400 years. When I show you all through Jamestown, all this stuff, you'd be like, wait a minute, man. Huh? I'd be like, yep, you see this, you read this? That's the so-called duration of physical bondage. This was no exception to the enslavement of West Coast Africans, right? Right? By the pale-skinned nations of Europe, from 1492 to 1865, that's 373 years. Although U.S. slavery was only opposed by a few during Abe Lincoln's presidency, the historically versed knew the time was nigh for the emancipation. Abraham Lincoln, as a man, did not care whether Africans were freed or remained in slavery, right? In fact, the Emancipation Proclamation was such a perfect hoax of executive power. There are people from this writing 140 years later that still believe it freed slaves. Lincoln, like most politicians, used his knowledge of history as a platform for his acquired office. The broader their historical base, the stronger their political race. Abraham Lincoln knew history and knew it well from the world's leading history, the Bible, especially when we talk about Deuteronomy, with all the Hebrew Israelite love, talk about slaves, the Leviticus codes, which dealt with systems of slavery. And at this time, it will do well to point out today's enslavement of Africans was strongly supported by 3 of the world's 4 major religions. When you so-called the Buddhists, the Hindus, the Confucians, those 2 was the only religious orders exempt from the modern enslavement of the ripe-skinned people of the continental Africa. This by no means suggests that the hand of India are innocent of African slave trade, just like when you look up the Arab slave trade, all those others, etc. When we talk about some transatlantic slave trade, yeah, I hear you. Then what about white cargo? And they were white and they were slaves, especially when their history has been stained by the world's foremost African slavers of all time. No disrespect, the misnomer Arabs, who are the Siddhas or the Siddhas of India. No disrespect. When we talk about Jews, Jews of all people, and Muslims with support of certain Christians, when you do history, Doctrine of Discovery, all this stuff, all with their holy books in hand, marked over 5 million Africans from 1092 to this present day. The public awareness of the religious with their participation in the African slave trade will begin to end during Lincoln's presidency. Mr. Lincoln said, and I quote, "There must be an inferior and a superior. I, as much as any man, am in favor of superior being assigned to the white race." Most Bible thumpers at that time were deeply convinced that they were doing God's will to enslave the blacks. The odd thing about this is it was they who labeled all Africans black in the first place. This state of mind must not be forgotten, although it is often unimaginable and unthinkable to the average Negro, black, and color of today. But there are many people in high places today that feel just as strongly about subjugating Africans as there were 150 to 200 to 400 years ago. It's just what it is. So when we talk about let's make a citizen, the capital US, the us of this subtitle referred to corporate United States of America, assumed by many persons to be a sovereign, independent power. When you get these Moors talking about they some goofy sovereign citizen, that's an oxymoron. You ain't no sovereign and no citizen at the same time. No way, no how. You got that off the internet. Period. The constitutional concept and interpretation of a citizen did not derive its authoritative powers from the Declaration of Independence of the original 13 United States of America. In that course of human events, they discovered that a person was bound by the laws of nature and nature's God, that they held these truths to be self-evident. All men are created equal, and their creator endows them with certain unalienable rights. Among these are what? Life, the right to live, liberty, the right to be free, and the pursuit of happiness, the right to be content. Founded, the totality of these rights became the Bill of Rights. The U.S. Constitution was written by the people and for the people. By what people and for what people? These laws established by freeborn and free men were from living souls who are sovereigns from the womb of their mothers. See? So when you get these goofy Moors talk about they some sovereign citizens, they some foreign nationals, you need to leave them alone. All U.S. citizens are under that 14th Amendment, persons, property, implemented by Civil Rights Act of 1866, which was originally established to disguise the newly freed slaves. The only problem was the European political powers of those days dug a shallow grave of fiend sensory for the ex-slavery and for ex-slaves, and they later fell into that themselves. This is why, to this day, if the Americans actually knew what a so-called U.S. citizen was according to their law, I ain't talking about my law, no Moore's law, no shit like that. I'm talking about according to their law. They would not want to be one. I guarantee you, if you break it down, I guarantee you. And what a lot of people fail to realize during the drafting of the great document, the European men, age 21, were the only people recognized in America. Women, other nationalities, and slaves were not considered as whole persons or people, at least not with rights that a pale-skinned man had to respect. It takes a number of persons to make a people. As was written in Article 1, Section 2, Clause 3, the word person The word person was summarized into fifths, and 5/5 made one complete person. And this person, as endowed by the Creator and the laws of nature, was declared the whole number and a free person. This endowment with the totality of fifths made a complete and perfect person, and subsequently a citizen. And when the USA was first formed under its constitution, its sovereignty was for and by the people, aka mankind. The word persons used by the people to describe their property, businesses, and fictional beings. I broke the whole Wizard of Oz story down for y'all. It gave life to corporate American oaths, affidavits, notaries, self-incriminating pro se, used by the strawmans, jurisdiction in prisons. When Moors don't understand the Masonic keys or the Kemetic keys, they get called in some lower science. And I say those Negro Masons, and they mix it. When they say, I am a citizen of the USA, not understanding the science and what that really means, don't really understand what it means. You know? It's just real stuff. It's the difference between sovereigns and citizens. It's a much difference. A much difference. If you don't know that, you tripping. And you can't be a sovereign and a citizen at the same time. That's an oxymoron. You done. You done. Anytime you go and talk about you some sovereign citizen or you some more sovereign, you are done. Tell me how. You couldn't even explain it. You can't explain that with a straight face. You're just going to be rambling off at the mouth. You know? There's a big difference between sovereign and citizens. As the Fifth Amendment, all these amendments, freeborns and bond servants, Moorish Americans and Negro church members, or unalienable rights and inalienable privileges. If the assemblable citizens of the USA only knew the true legal definition of citizen, they would be ticked to the highest ticktivity, as I always say. Nothing's gonna make you better or give you some get out of jail free card. I'm telling you who you are and what we can do as a people once understanding comes. The 5/5 components of a natural person. The 5/5 components of a natural person. Spirit, the indestructible God essence in man. Soul, the actions of the mind. Powers, thinking, reasoning, willing, understanding. Body, flesh, human vehicle made of the earth, often indigenous to the land of birth. Nationality, the descended birth attachment through an especial nation or tribe. Free national name, lineage, identity. Creed, religious path of God consciousness, established through forefathers, vine, and fig tree. And so those 5, but number 4 and 5, nationality and creed, or divine creed, were the two main fifths extracted from the African nationals, George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, and many other European Freemasonic slave owners who signed the Constitution of the United States. Also wrote in their chattel as 3/5 of a person. They wrote in their chattel as a 3/5 of a person. The Constitution thus became the first legal national deed of ownership of African slaves of the new nation. And this act alone legalized racism and apartheid into the interior fabric of the new American culture. Further, it politically certified all Negro, blacks, and colors as 3/5 of all other persons and at the level of a beast. Any man without national roots from which to draw strength and the great God of his guidance is no longer a complete man. For those who keep up with the total commercialization of corporate USA as portrayed in The Wizard of Oz, you will easily see that the misnomer Negro, black, and color as purely a fictional character aka a fake citizen, aka a sovereign, goofy citizen, painted into the scheme of an ex post facto government. Our prophet Noble Drew Ali appeared. I continue to teach, and we give the lost found the shoes necessary to rejoin the human family of nations. Like my father said, we ain't lost no more. How can you be lost and we found? One, with fourth that was taken from you, nationality. Five, the divine order. It's impossible for them to leave the land of make-believe without the shoes handed down by the ancient forefathers. Now, all we have to do is apply what our will, Aya Asha Aya, and climb the 3 steps of the thinking ladder with its rounds of belief, faith, fruition. That's in your Morse Quran, chapter 7, 25 and 31. And to attempt or to remove in whole or in part or more fifths from any man, any woman, is a conscious act known simultaneously as both a sin and a crime. Ironically, the United States judicial system marks this violation as a federal crime and is known throughout the U.S. courts as what? Denationalization. When I tell y'all, no man, no woman can nationalize and denationalize you. I keep showing y'all what these clowns doing, criminal acts. The irony in this crime is that it is committed manually by every state and by these goofy Negroes on the internet talk about they can nationalize you. They commit crimes. They talk about somebody else. They doing it. Since the 14th Amendment became law and then written, state sealed upon the live birth of every Moorish American and everybody else that's born. But denationalization is played off on their birth certificates and everybody else's. When I talk about the Negro as the sardine, that's why I say you got to beware of lying lawyers. The biblical scriptures talk about it. Just like I said, you got to beware of all these lying Moors that be on the internet. They talk about all these public entertainers that's just there for notoriety. They want notoriety, so they'll make videos talking about somebody all day, which some entertainer might be doing. And then when Moors get in trouble, they talk about all this black law stuff, which is trash. Beware of you lying lawyers. Beware of these Moors on the internet too. And any lawyer worth the salt of the so-called bar exam, they're going to lie to you and swear on the Bible and declare blacks are citizens of the USA because the term other persons, just like an idiot to tell you that be thinking they smart. And I said, man, you will get destroyed in academia, in lower elementary law. When we have a discussion, man, them European students would be like, man, clearly you don't know what you're talking about. You'll get locked up for contempt of court. Coming here playing. The term other persons of the U.S. Constitution refers to slaves, but the 13th Amendment didn't abolish slavery, or the Dred Scott decision was replaced by the 14th Amendment, right? Then you got to know it was a specific amendment that eliminated the 3/5 formula. You should know it. All this marching, all this stuff people be doing, all these so-called educators, all the talking. I said, dude, give me 35, 45 minutes, I'll rest my case with no rebuttal. It ain't nothing they can say. What these first servants of the course will not tell their clients is that no constitutional law have ever been handed down by Congress to teach back the later 2/5 necessary to make the free slaves into a whole person. Ask them. Ask them. And I can't do that for you. I don't do that. A person must be made consciously whole before he or she can become a citizen, have the rights of a citizen, and be subject to the jurisdictions of a citizen. Everyone, anywhere on the planet Earth has all 5/5 and are whole except Negroes, blacks made in America, and Siddhas of India, or Siddhas. The 13th Amendment, the 13th Amendment abolished physical slavery, but left psychological, mental slavery in full effect. And this violates the 2nd, 5th, the right of mind, the soul, of the 5 gifts from the Creator. Speaking of one's right mind, it reminds us how, no disrespect again, how Christianized Negro, blacks, and color would pray to a God, no disrespect, a European, an Albion, a Trinidad God, something that don't resemble self, and thank it for allowing them to wake up in the morning, clothed in their right mind. And little did they know the mind they woke up in and the mind they woke up with and the gods they were presently serving are not their inherently own. And that's just a basic observation. And with the ratification of the 13th Amendment, the enslavement of human bodies is now legally enforced upon criminals duly convicted. You got to understand this. This is no made up stuff. President Lincoln also said, "My people do not want them, slaves, to become citizens. If I could unite my country without freeing the slaves, I would do that." He was actually expressing a European national sentiment. No true red-blooded American wanted to free slaves, although the ratification of the original 13th Amendment, with its full body of 20 sections, did not reach fruition. It is still of the utmost importance for its historical adjudication. See, that's what I'm telling you. That's what we need to do before the 1864, the U.S. Congress, to be known to the African descents, especially because one, the enactment of these laws was all about the emancipation and freedom of their recent grand forefathers. And two, when the full Senate vote on passing the 13th Amendment was yes, 38, and no, 7, the U.S. slave population was 98% illiterate, and not one of them was present to represent themselves as a people. And then all this time later, the children, we can read, and we know now what our grandparents could not have known. The information can be found in the U.S. Library of Congress or the 1885 book called The Great Conspiracy by John Logan. And you can read the proposed original 13th Amendments with the full body of 20 sections. Research the 13th Amendments with the full body of 20 sections. And y'all still out here playing to talk about somebody can nationalize you. I'm like, okay. And after Congress would not pass the original 13 amendments with the full body of 20 sections, instead they summarized the 13, to just 2 sections. And Lincoln said, quite honestly, they, the Negro, will never be totally free under my people. Basically, Congress, still days after 4 years of a bloody civil war, said with a loud voice, it only takes 1 section to abolish slavery. And we will throw in a second section stating Congress shall have the power to enforce that one article by appropriation legislation, or you know what I mean? Or appropriate legislation. We do not need the other 18 sections. The European Congress reminded the Lincoln administration the U.S. Constitution was not written for slaves, but to ensure domestic tranquility and to secure the blessings of liberty to us and our prosperity. I'm telling you, the 14th Amendment, as Noble Drew Ali warned, and I continue to warn more than true light seekers about the needless power of the 14th Amendment and the 15th Amendment. We teach our brothers and sisters, there's no need for the application of those amendments. We already explained that 1865 and 70 amendments have made the determination that the 14th and 15th Amendment is the sneakiest document of re-enslavement to have ever been written. The 14th Amendment alone is crippling and devastating until it's later transformed every U.S. citizen from ignorant sugar cubes to corporate sheets, known as straw men, within 60 years of that ratification. And the power of the South had been its Negro votes, have been enslaved until, losing the Civil War. And in 1863, military strategy of the Emancipation Proclamation and the 1870 and the 15th Amendment brought the North and South in unit, placing the Southerners who were at that time without power. And since the Civil War was primarily fought between one brother in blue and the other in gray, the 14th Amendment was actually a legal settlement or an agreed order, which took slavery from the gray dispensation and spread it over to every state throughout the United States or the Blue Republic. This was the only way both brothers could settle the long-standing grievance about the power of owning and sustaining slaves in America. It must be remembered that the founding fathers and their prosperity were and are fanatically serious about their slaves, so much so they fought their mother country and then each other just to keep their precious human chattel. The honorable, when I told y'all, when y'all see a certain president on the horse, and I show y'all in Russia and this so-called whole big gold like museum where they said destroyed, and you're gonna be like, why the hell is this president in the middle here on the horse? Why they got this there? I'm gonna show you, man. It all connects. The honorable president of the mighty Sox's nation, Chief Sitting Bull, 1834, 1893, was not only Lieutenant Colonel George Armstrong Custer's worst daymare, Little Bighorn, 1876, but he also knew well the nature of the European Masons in position of power. The chief said the cool words of the paleface, spoken in darkness, always melt in the sunlight of his axe. How true, how true. And nowhere is the Masonic exoteric and esoteric language more vividly demonstrated than in the 14th Amendment, written expressly for the ex-slave. The Soxes and other indigenous people of America have and are experiencing the terrible whiplash effect of many broken treaties. When I say U.S. broke all treaties, I'm trying to tell you. And really, do many people in the United States realize that the Congressional 13th Amendment was also a manumission treaty with the African descents or former slaves or of former slaves? And this document not only freed the slaves, but also simultaneously created a second new nation of people. And the Treaty of Freedom was broken. The Treaty of Freedom, you know what? Come on. Within 3 years of its ratification by the covert, you know, in operation, you do things covert. You got to know what covert means. And needless 14th Amendment, also living in the same sunlight of the European word, the so-called Negro, colored, and black people, being backlash from the 1868 14th Amendment family, still believing this congressional act made them citizens of the United States. And it's heartbreaking when most people discover that it is a divine, a natural, and lawful impossibility to make a denationalized person property into a citizen of a free national government. A people are only free when they are true to themselves, pure, clean, and independent. It is of supreme importance for the brothers and sisters and the true light seekers to identify the esoteric, the exoteric master words of persons, and alien, particularly as they are used in the Reconstruction Amendments and in the parent body, the U.S. Constitution. These words are soaked in the Masonic Maya of European male superiority and its profane world of Africans, women, handicapped children, and elderly. They have the appearance of freedom, but have a deceptive core of subjugation and slavery. That's why if the Negro, black, and color really wants to see what the U.S. laws say of them, they must understand their language when they are called persons and aliens. Or they can simply rationalize the frivolous possibility of the same constitutional master of slaves for the past 400 years when they say slavery. These consecutive years will suddenly love them so much as to free yourself and recognize them as equal to themselves and citizens. You got to understand this. The complete disregard for Negroes as citizens was backed up by nearly a century of non-military support by the U.S. states governments until the event of the Little Rock Nine in 1868 to 1957. And during this 89-year period, there were 3,882 recorded lynchings, the 1921 mass bombing of the Tulsa, Oklahoma, and millions of cases of Jim Crow segregation. The 14th Amendment clearly states all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. The italicized words are very consequential to understand the 14th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. It goes on to read, and I quote, in addition to no legal abridgment of these privileges or immunities of the citizens, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, property, or equal protection of the laws. This opening clause, in fact, an ex post facto reenactment of the Negro and congressional deed of ownership of all ex-slaves, aka persons. These laws were already written and guaranteed to the United States citizens as rights earlier in the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. So why was it necessary for these rights to appear as privileges again in the 14th Amendment? See? To make provisions for millions of free slaves that were not included in the Constitution, designed by the people for the people, that was endowed by their creator. Unfortunately, history showed that the Negro, black, and colored slave was and is endowed by his owner, and is the duty of all creators to endow their creations. Just like when you talk about you some Negro, black, and colored, only people that got paid for their slave is the owner. I'm telling you, this also reveals blacks as an American-made product exclusively. Black as an American-made product exclusively. Make this go viral. Certified and marked only in America. The owners of all Negro, black, colored people was and will always be the exclusive markers of Negroes. All creators are the true owners of their creation. When these Negroes, we talk about kill your masters, when a rapper had a shirt supporting the old European president, going for President Joe Biden, he had a shirt on kill your masters. How the hell are you gonna wear a shirt talking about kill your master? That means you a slave. Ain't no other way you can explain it. And we be falling asleep with that dumb stuff. And then they had this show, what we call ourselves, Negro, black, color this, and our freedom is connected to blackness. That's crap pertaining to law. And God never made any black people during the period of physical slavery. It was owners of their creations. And God never made any black people. That's why during the period of so-called physical slavery, it was understood that the slave was the property of the slave master, endowed with his name, mark, and provisions. The 14th Amendment merely changed and legalized the language to color, the institution of psychohistory, servitude, and to assume sensory. That's what it is. And now it reads all persons born. This clause was made to symbolize the nationalization of former slaves into citizens, yet without the free national descendant name of their forefathers and their own true nationality. Then by divine and natural law, they are still slaves and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Property now owned by the U.S. government. The courts, the laws, the clause of the USA assume ownership again over the ex-slaves before they could wake up from the mental blow to the head that would make them a nation. With all due respect to the U.S. courts, being the fiend owner of the ex-slave today, it is partially their inheritance. The 13th Amendment frees the African to proclaim their forefathers' free national name and religion. I broke that fourth and fifth down that was took from you, but they didn't, and you choose the don't still. And over the century of absorbing every form of dehumanizing contrived by man, the Negro, black, and colored have become too accustomed to, no disrespect, European, Albion, Negro handouts, welfare. And worst of all, they have been knocked in the head so hard, they are still legally unconscious of themselves and their divine origin. Every Negro reparations went to cheap housing, drug, rehab, all that little shit. That's where it went. 3 years from that, from 1865 to 68, is too brief of a period for any nation to undo chattel slavery, salvage themselves from the aftermath of mental slavery. During that small 3-period lull, the 14th Amendment was fabricated, forming a legal, constitutional death blow to a people freshly stillborn from slavery. And now this unfolds into the divine reason why our Prophet Noble Drew Ali and why I still tell Moors, stating, since the United States Constitution has never been changed, United States Constitution has never been changed, there is no need for the application of the 14th and the 15th Amendment for the salvation of our people and citizens. That's too simple. You should be telling all these people to shut up. All these people you following on the internet, you should be done. If not, you are playing a game because you cannot arbitrarily explain what I'm telling you. You playing a game. You are, and you want to be in trouble. This is too clear. Somebody had to claim the ex-slaves. It would appear that the United States so loved its only begotten Negroes until it created special laws to make them citizens of the states. And since a slave without his or her nationality cannot be a citizen, it stands without constitutional law for the so-called Negro to be owned by the states of the United States because of the sweltering hostilities between North and South. And at the very least, the U.S. government was forced to create the 14th Amendment. And you got to understand that the Civil War was fought over territorial lands west of the Mississippi and rebellious governments known as the Southern Confederate United States. It was not a conflict over slaves, although slaves were used as a military strategy to sway the victory for the Union. And once the war was won, the old cliche of "to the victor go the spoils" came into full effect, family. And the question of both North and South was, what shall we do with the so-called ex-slaves? This question had to be answered by male Europeans, whose greatest interest is order over land and property. Somebody, something had to assume rule, jurisdiction over the freshly freed blind, cast into the interior of a new union. It was good Christian hospitality not to annihilate them instead. Perhaps this may have appeared as the only choice the U.S. government officials had to make at that time. After all, family, the USA had never been without her slaves. Legally, this kind of possession is known as what? Assumable jurisdiction, which is the power the government or attorney give themselves over the subject's property or business, etc. Actually, the word person, as used in the 14th Amendment, is a masterful work of deception and has fooled millions of the best legal minds in modern history. Those few that do know would not tell because they were swore to secrecy to receive the information. But see, I tell y'all, I ain't under no oath. Oh, thanks for the donation. Yep, this Cash App $KGBay. If anybody want to donate to Cash App $KGBay, why not? And if you want to donate $40, I'll PDF you Exhumer of the Nation. You go to Office Max and Staples and they'll print it and bind it for you. Ain't no biggie. You don't have to spend $203 for nothing and give it to a certain platform. Your brother right here. You got to remember that all three of the Reconstruction Amendments ratified by Congress between 1865 to 70 were written exclusively about the slaves and ex-slaves. The most damaging by far is the 14th Amendment. So in this amendment, the word persons is always referring to ex-slaves. It's a word held to protect the civil rights of the NBC, but was broadened by the Supreme Court to include corporations, other properties, and businesses under its Equal Protection Clause. And this word is today as much as the 3/5 Constitution. The word persons, as applied to African Americans or whatever misnomer they choose, is still person, and the word property are synonymous. The Negro, referred to in the unchallenged 1779 U.S. Constitution as a 3/5, is the same property referred to as a person in its 1868 14th Amendment, 89 years later, again proving the corporate United States of America, with the exception of 3 years, from 1865 to 1868, has never been without its slaves. I mean, it's just what it is. Negroes today, African Americans, will never have the right, never. The misnomers of Negro, blacks, and colored, being the names of denationalized human property, were never designed to have rights. Labeled property, the Negro, black, and colored can never have true rights because all rights are contingent upon universal, natural, and or civil laws. And to be civil, you got to have something to come from to even get civil rights. And before there can be rights, there must be laws from which rights derive their strength. And since the Negro does not have a constitution or laws of autonomy from which to govern itself, he or she cannot have lawful rights. And this is why the Dred Scott decision of 1857 stated, the Negro has no right that the true citizens are bound to respect. And this divine and civil law was ratified in the 14th Amendment under the word person and sealed in its section 4, which states in essence that Negroes, persons, whether free or slave, have no right to compensation or reparations. I just broke it down so you can have these people, all these little videos, what we're going to do, how we're going to get reparations. I just told you, a Negro, black, and color, you don't got no right to even fight for no reparations. Your case going to be threw out every time. You keep coming, I'll lock you up for contempt of court because you coming with the wrong fight. I'm in favor of reparations as any man. Still, stately restitution is only reserved for constitutional governments for atrocities imposed against other recognized nations, tribe, and or family bearing the same free national name. Period. Make this go viral. All that dumb stuff. Please, I'll rest my case. It's no rebuttal. They playing with y'all. They been rocking y'all to sleep. I have the same education as Moore. I teach Europeans this same stuff. We sitting here playing. I'm breaking the laws down. Your freedom ain't connected to no blackness. Why would somebody say that, educator? That's crazy. The Negro, black, and color is neither of those. And to avoid paying reparations to slaves and descendants of ex-slaves, it's the main reason for Congress of the United States written Section 4 into the de facto 14th Amendment, recycle bin of Negro, black, and color slaves, persons, identifications. And this amendment is nothing short of a title of ownership and assumable jurisdiction of the freed nation of people brought forth by Congress in the 13th Amendment. And first, the Negro, black, and colored must be free as a people bearing one free national name. Then, and only then, will they be able to claim rights, which will draw its powers from their own constituted laws and principles. And until these laws are adhered to, the Negro, black, and color will remain as chattel and without rights, and they only function under granted privileges, as demonstrated shameless with the 15th Amendment or the 15th Voting Privileges Amendment, and thus has been the existing condition since the 3/5 clause of 1779. That's why a lot of these so-called graduate lawyers of the ABA exam, they will argue that the 3/5 clause and the Dred Scott decision were overruled by the 14th Amendment. And I'm gonna tell you bullshit, excuse my candor. They will lose in this case when examining how the same labels of Negro, black, and colored that lawfully began in 1779 are still certified as state-owned property today. When you look at certain live birth, not just you, everybody. It's not a rightful law on earth that can make a citizen from a mold designed to produce the shape of property. And African Americans, etc., being another misnomer. And the egg slot of slave labels are exclusively made here in America. This is why privileges granted to property should never be misconstrued as being the same as the rights earned by citizens of a free national government. That's why I talk about the 15th Amendment, the last of the Reconstruction Amendments, results from the great rights of suffrage. Just like when I showed y'all in the book, what was it called? Setting the record straight. When I talk about suffrage, when I showed the European Southern Belle cutting the hair off the Asiatic woman, suffrage of 1870, the amendment gave guaranteed voting powers to free male Negro slaves, but it was not because America so loved her only slaves, it gave them the right to vote as all other citizens, but quite contrary. Who would they vote for? Just like what Negroes do now. And after the assassination of Lincoln, the South began pouring representative, just like when I talk about the Wilmington white man's constitution. Research that. Start dropping in all that money, influential filibusters, lobbyists, all that stuff. You see what's happening. The 15th Amendment was created to give them the power to vote, even though 98% of them couldn't read. The Negro way of the political South was used against itself. And these Trojan votes restore sovereign powers to the United Union States. In short, property was used to defend itself. Citizens of the U.S. were guaranteed the right to vote in the very first article of the Constitution, Article 1, Section 2, Clause 1. Therefore, the 15th Amendment was purely for the purpose of pacifying a segment of civilian populace for a time. That's why the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendments are all prompted by the government to quell some form of civil unrest. And this form of government tactic is not new. Due to the instability of the public, especially in culturally diverse countries like America, granted privileges are a necessary deterrent to civil revolts and all that, which we shouldn't do. I get it. By the hoi polloi. I get it. Historically retrospect, Rome crucified Yahshua according to their laws, not because he was guilty, but because Caiaphas of the Jewish Sanhedrin had threatened massive destruction to the city and Pilate's palace if their demands were not met. And then from that time, 1,800 years later, in almost an identical scenario, Lincoln, an executive chief and commander of the military, had to do what was best to save so-called America. That's why the Negro, Black, and Colored will be, hey, babe. That's why the Negro, Black, and Colored will be perpetually remain as chattel and without rights. It's just a fact. How to free all Moorish Americans or Negro, Black, and Colored hostages. We talk about Reconstruction Amendments. Now that I gave you a little synopsis of these amendments, 13th, 14th, 15th, the way have been paved to go behind the scenes of these laws, which compiled in the infamous shallow grave of Haram Abith. When I talk about Masonry, a lot of Negro, Black, and Colored convicted felonies are going to be pissed after understanding this, and they're going to try to tear down the local lie libraries. When I talk about the Chicago lie, all the Chicago law books and all this, you got to understand that the reader and the student may be surprised to see the plan to keep ex-slaves holding steadfast to slave names, even to this day. You can no more make a bond citizen out of a Negro, Black, and Colored than make a so-called Muslim eat swine during a pilgrimage to the holy city. That's why you got to balance this lawful history with the United States officially losing its sovereignty in 1871, returning to the original corporate status, and when it was just the British colonies. And your summation would be simply, you got to understand that. What that means. True constitutional governments do not have nor honor corporate courts because corporations are mere property themselves. Corporate courts cannot preside over natural persons jurisdictionally. A Black political hostage is a state of encompassment. It is the state of unnatural existence that envelopes the so-called Black people, which is seen by masses and is largely unnoticed due to its obscure definition. So in essence, family, this state of substance is the colorable, legalized enslavement of a nation of people held here in the United States of America. To reveal this phenomena is necessary to dissect the word Black, political, and the word hostage. Black is only a word, not a color, which according to science means death, void of light, absent of life. When you understand machination of a Maya people, political, the practice, influence of a government, anything pertaining or relating to the policy or administration of government, state or national, the exercise of the function vested in the charge with the conduct of government to control its public policy, the exercising of governmental powers. Hostage, any persons, family, tribe, national, or people once free, now captured, usually kidnapped from alien origin, held against his or her will, with their freedom and or life or service to stand as ransom or security. So when we talk about hostage, taken in the USA, ironically, is a federal crime. When you see Title 18 USCA 1203, and nearly always invokes various kidnapping statutes, and technically these are polite legal terms to soften the impact of the unlawful taking of human beings, realized as an act of kidnapping, enslavement, or in the case, European women, white slavery. It's not considered politically correct to use the root word slave or its attributes when speaking of the US, although it's commonly referred to as the land of the free and the home of the brave. And this kind of politicized thinking reflects social unwillingness to accept pure truth. That's why the origin of the so-called black political hostage began with the transfer of slave ownership from the powerless Southerner to the constitutional fold of government for the restoring of United States. And most people, especially the Negro, Black, and colored, assume that their Emancipation Proclamation or the 13th and the 14th Amendment freed the slave and made them citizens. But the documents enact during the 5-year period from 1865 to 70, it didn't free a slave. It unconditionally, but merely transferred them as property from one owner to another. From the Southern rebellious Confederate states to throughout every state within the Union, United States. And meanwhile, it's true that the 13th Amendment did in fact abolish the institution of slavery in the USA, but however, it is also equally true that no one told the newly freed people they were now a nation. And this law only brought temporary harmony and satisfaction between the Scottish and the York rights in both and South, in North and South, when I talk about Freemasonry. And during these 5 years of power consolidation, the productive business of slavery became the most paramount of all political issues. I'm telling you, everybody got a birth certificate. That's why I don't be knowing why Moors be saying that. Everybody that born have a birth certificate. That's why, and I quote, the birth certificate, lawful proof that blacks are not citizens, or the blank check. Our prophet Noble Drew Ali said, and I quote, do not change your birth certificate. And Negroes talk about, I want to change my birth certificate. I want to do a status correction. I said, you a fool. You lying. You getting that from some clown on the internet. Don't change your birth certificate because you are going to get paid, and paid with compound interest for what they done to you during the time of what? Lawful and assumable jurisdiction, aka slavery. And then I ain't talking about no whole bunch of money for to get this check. Man, you can split that up amongst Negroes, give Negroes a whole bunch of money. They ain't gonna have nothing the next day. And these state documents have been authorized by the U.S. Congress through its signature, signed at the last article on each of the Reconstruction Amendments, particularly the 14th. And what most Negro, blacks, and colored don't know, especially those with the latest civil outcry of so-called my reparations now, which I said y'all just barking and spitting like a dog on a chain, is their state-owned certificate of live birth. It's actually their the so-called blank check made payable to them upon proof of proper status identification. Not more talking about, oh, your social security is attached to some millions. Well, if your social security number attached to some millions, well, his goofy asses is too. Well, he should have millions. If not, tell him to shut up. And that ain't what I'm talking about, no money. So don't get caught up. Each one of you, when you understand who you are, your body, you are worth millions. When you come to a clear understanding. This is what the 40 acres and mule looks like after the interests have been compounding annually since 1865 AD. The people labeled Negro, Black, and Colored, Afro, NBC, African American. State-issued birth certificates are the official anchors to a chain of judicial documents declaring them as property. Everyone, of course, via the state where they reside. That's why when I say the Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15 clearly states, and I quote, you have a right of a nationality and a right to change it. No one will be arbitrarily denied of a nationality and a right to change your nationality. And the change of, and the change, what is that? And the claim of child replaces your birth certificate. The claim of child replaces the birth certificate. The claim of child replaces the birth certificate. So if it's a process and the law is telling you what to do that, and Obama been telling you that, what you sit up here arguing with somebody on the internet for, finna pay some fool. Only teacher should do is guide you and say, if you care that much, you want to do it, this is the process. It ain't nobody can do that. Ain't nobody got no power to do that. Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15 clearly states you have a right of a nationality and a right to change it. No one will be arbitrarily denied of a nationality and the right to change it. And the claim of child replaces the birth certificate. Done deal. If that's what you care about. Other subsequent certificates range from baptism certificates, driver's license, medical, and dental records, academic records, Social Security authorities, marriage and operative license, all this. That's so-called linked to denationalization, so-called colorable sensory. Everybody under that of a people because their power derived from the original bogus certificate of live birth. And it's a crime of denationalization. It takes place every time a baby is born. If you're born free, but the laws say, just like with paying taxes, you're either going to do this or no, the law can say, no, I'm supporting my religious and charitable contribution of my choice. Or say, no, I don't have to go to a hospital. I'm going to have a midwife or a doula and do that. And we're going to have this, that, and the other. And do the claim of child, which the law say you can. So I ain't here to argue with nobody. So when you go and be a willing obligor to people's laws and to people's jurisdictions, don't be trying to fight that and you went as a willing obligor. The great God we made in the image of God, abruptly certified under the 14th Amendment as property, Negro, Black, and colored. The Citizenship of Rights of 1868, Section 1, Rights of Citizens, all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States, of that state wherein they reside. Apportionment of representatives in Congress. Representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to their respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons 3/5 to 5 whole in each state, exclusive Indians not taxed, but when the right to vote and any election for the choice of electors for the president and vice president of the United States. You see that? You see that? You see that? So when we talk about per-slavery and the annals of the liberty of Congress, the graphic mixture of all this Negro and stuff, all these certain things, all these tricks, and all we out here arguing, all these persons born, this 14th Amendment, were strategically used to humiliate the conquered rebel states, to break their political attempts to filibuster the 1870 elections, with the exception of with Congressman Hiram Reeves. Most of the construction ex-slaves either did not complete their first term or were not allowed to serve a second term. And after the North Republican government had used millions of Negro, Blacks, and colored men to regain Union control of the United States by tricking them into believing they were U.S. citizens. And the federal government would lose the so-called KKK, Lee, Southern Christianship. All that stuff followed it. That's why I tell you, man, Crips and Bloods, Masonry, if you higher science, no European is gonna come to you, no way. I don't disrespect nobody. Man, forget the feds, all that. Man, forget more science. I'm 99 degrees of ancient rite of Memphis and Mizraim. Me being a Moor, that's my pedigree. Man, the science is this brain. This is who I am. It's just what it is. You got to remember damn near all congressional laws and their amendments were written by European Masons and other, no disrespect, free white males. For free white males, just like in Masonry, when I talk about Freemasonry. Masons also set the legal age for manhood in the West, whereas 21? And you don't even know what the 21 consists of, is the age of an adult European male. And all nations of you, especially African, manhood began at 12, 14. Meanwhile, in the Fraternal Order of Freemasonry, only accepted free white males, age 21, qualify as its members. That's why this science I teach is elementary. Thus, it became the legal age law for manhood in the U.S. And the term all persons born applies specifically to Negro, Black, and colored people. And the word persons was first used in the very first article of the U.S. Constitution, Section 3, and described the Negro, the Black, the colored, as not being a whole or a free person, but 3/5 of all other persons, family. Section 9, the term such persons applied to Negro, Black, and colored, prohibited Congress from interfering with the importation of slaves before 1808. And in 1968, the 14th Amendment reworded the whole number of persons each state was supposed to nullify the 3/5, formerly of Article 1, Section 2, excluding Indians not taxed. People, especially the Negro, Black, and colored, assumed the Masonic, esoteric, and exoteric play on the word person made them citizens because of being classified as a whole number. But however, family, simultaneously, the Supreme Court ruled that the true nature of the word person, as applied to the Negro, black, and colored folks, is to include corporations. Thus, the clause could be used to protect other business interests, properties as well. So in brief, and in this law, and please stay in context, person is synonymous with the word property. Corporations used to replace the original 3/5 clause as applied to other property, aka slaves. And the 14th Amendment is a surface of fiend attempt to overrule the Dred Scott decision. And the European Freemasons and collaborating politicians designed to appear to make the Negro, black, and colored ex-slaves into Southern citizens of the U.S. And this miraculous feat was to be enacted without the standard internationally proclamation of a free national name and nationality as required by all free persons, including Indians not taxed. Our Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and I continue to reiterate, if Italians, Greeks, English, Chinese, Japanese, Turks, Arabians are forced to proclaim their free national name and religion before the constitutional government of the United States of America, is it not more than right that the law should be enforced upon all American citizens alike? Or do they say, no, because you're a damn slave? So everybody can come over here and say who they are, but you here, you a slave. You don't have that same right. In all other governments, when a man is born and raised there and asked for his national descent name, and if he fails to give it, he or she is misused, imprisoned, or exiled. Because to be a citizen of any government, you must claim your national descent name, because they place their trust upon issues and names formed by their forefathers. And this statement brings to a whole new question, or naturalized, applies to every nation attached to the human family, by the Negro, black, and colored people. The naturalization clause permits a person to acquire nationality after birth and become entitled to the U.S. citizenship by choice and acceptance. It does not apply to the Negro, black, and colored because they have no ties, no alien to the United States. Therefore, the U.S. claims all Negro, black, and colored people as its property, what? By birth. So in layman terms, the Emancipation Proclamation did not free the African slave. The 13th Amendment, although it abolished its institution of slavery, also continually re-legalized slavery upon those duly convicted of so-called crimes. I don't want to break that out again. That's why the truth about reparations and ex-slaves in the United States, why the so-called black people would never, why black people will always be denied reparations. Always. Like Ice Cube wrote that song when he was, what was it called? They grew with Mac 10 and Dub C, West Coast Connection. Faux live. Negro, they ain't getting no reparations. Faux live. Negro, they ain't getting no reparations. Faux live. I don't care how you bark and argue. Period. You ain't gonna never. You gotta understand that I'm in favor of this stuff in both forms of land and monies to be paid to the states to survival of the so-called ex-slaves. But I gotta say, reparations would be never given to Negro, blacks, and colored, like those who are called themselves African Americans. These people, in any of the aforementioned status, simply do not have the legal, the historical, or the natural muster to merit reparations. Too often, the novel historians, these entertainers, these so-called scholars, talk about your freedom is connected to your blackness. Man, that is the most goofiest thing I ever heard come out somebody else's mouth. These are y'all historians that make the unjust mistake of not studying the law when they study a particular history. The law governs all events. I'll break this down. The law governs all events. You cannot take it no other way. And this includes history, although no history is an exact science, because this usually is written by the conquerors. And most conquerors care very little about the past events of those they have conquered. And this is to say, the slant placed upon most historians have the same origin as the description of the crimes as told by the criminal. Very little consideration is ever given to the values of the victim. What on earth would make the Negro, black, and colored think that the United States of America would tell the so-called blacks the main reason they ain't getting no reparations because they black? There is but one true way they, as a people, can duly receive reparations. Upon this settling, you got to examine the historical phenomenon with a legal eye, with a legal prospectus. Reparations, what the Moors love, black law. They love black law so much. Okay, well, 6th edition, let's deal with it. Payment for an injury or damage, a redress for a wrongdoing. Several states have adopted the Uniform Crime Victims Reparation Act. Certain federal status also provide for reparation for violation of the act. Persons suffering losses because of violations of commodity. Further trading acts may seek reparations under the act against violator. 7 USCA number 18. Payment made by one country to another for damages during war or breach of international obligation. When we talk about restitution, the act of making amends for a wrong, compensation for an injury or a wrong, especially for wartime damages or breach of an international obligation. Reparative injunction. You know what a reparative injunction consists of? Listen to this clearly. An injunction requiring the defendant to restore the plaintiff to the position that the plaintiff occupied before the defendant committed the wrong. Preventative injunction. Only about 1 in every 50,000 well-trained, miseducated so-called Negro, blacks, and colored knows since 1868 that the 14th Amendment has declared reparations to all persons subject to its jurisdiction as unconstitutional. Bam, there you go. You done? You're not done. I'm giving you law. It's nothing to argue about. This means especially those United States ex-slaves and their descendants. Do not be deceived by the hundreds of individuals and groups riding this new wave of reparations now. Reparations Now movement are being showcased by prominent black U.S. law professionals, magnanimous legal firms, political leaders, civil rights advocates, all this stuff demanding compensation over centuries of unpaid slave labor. Whether innocent or ignorant, they are now pursuing realms reserved for all free national beings. And in their pursuit of reparations, today's African Americans are attempting to wade into the very depths of international waters, while dry docked by the de facto slave labels of Negro, black, and colored NBC. When these Negroes talk about we black people, we know law. Man, that's crazy. According to science and law, black mean deaf. According to nationality and ethnicity, no way you should be calling yourself some black man. With all due respect, these celebrities, these so-called social medias, black stuff, all that stuff are being dangled in front of the masses of Negro, blacks, and colored like a ripened carrot in front of the donkey. They just follow, hee-haw, hee-haw. That's all Negroes doing, being woe to sleep with people making videos about, we're going to make this video, a whole bunch of people pay to somebody talk that black dumb stuff. Listen to a dropout. It don't take much memory to recall there are masterful reasons why slaves have never been allowed to have leaders at any time in the histories of slavery. Slavery in the United States has been no different, except occasionally. The makers of Negroes will systematically reward bails, degrees, authorizations to conform blind. Habitually, the black hordes believe these experienced leaders are safe to follow. Just like one of the empresses sent me about this mega church. One of the pastors died. Y'all know the pastor that died, and then the one preacher took over. They said this is a mockery. I told you it's going to become a mockery. Even these goofy Moors is a mockery too. So let's not talk about that. The head of the donkey is focused on the so-called American dream. They own stuff, trinkets. Just like when one of my brothers, the Al Islam, when he was following the nation and he was following the young minister, and he was like, "She, everything you said this young minister doing now, they're like, this fake." I said, "I told you," but they talk about the preachers. They doing the same thing. You got junk in your trunk coming behind garbage cans, doing the same thing TD Jakes doing. Props. Oh, you can get this to get a car, to get this. All that trash. The American dream. What a land, what a schools. It can't tell the masses that its ass is a hauling and a denationalized cargo. A 40s colored, 50s Negro, 60s Black, 70s Afro American, 80 Afram, 90s African American. All that stuff. The 14th Amendment, Section 1 and 4. We're rule supreme. Blacks have been declared a gross national product, or 3/5 clause, since the inception of the United States. Research it. Can a Negro, a Black, and a colored person be free? No. By the standing laws of the corporate United States. This is another legal impossibility. Not as long as they claim Negro, Black, and colored, or any label other than their inalienable free national name, the process of self-entombing remains shamelessly in full effect. Even if they were freed. Freed into what? What you gonna be freed into? Not into the family of nations. Negro, Black, and colored labels are built into the American European paranormal and are legally colored in its social fabrics. And as long as they identify with what the U.S. laws flexes them to be, then only truth knows for sure how long this illusion will last. I'm telling you. U.S. history reveals its laws and codes. The USA got its country's growth and life from the body of Haram Abif, enslaved in the shallow grave of perpetual laws, which are designed to use Negro, Black, and colored as a perpetual commodity when I speak on Freemasonry. And at best, the Negro, Black, and colored are hand carved to be permanent pawns in the game of U.S. censure. All is not lost, however, because any David of the light will always use the size of a Goliath of the dark as the greatest weapon against himself. What? It'll use yourself against you. The fear. Just like the eyes. You wanted the heart, you wanted the brain. We got to come into our own. It's the 2000s. Just like our prophet said, he's going to stop the European from destructive thinking and start you Moors to thinking. Same thing what I do in the college campus. The European agree with me. I don't get any backlash. Start the thinking for yourself. That's why I said if I can get you to thinking and be a part of something, you can say yourself. Can't nobody buy you, and you can't buy yourself from nothing. You already at home. I'm your brother. It's others that's 1,000 miles away from home. And they have to take water. That's why them European Masons and them Negro Masons, them good old boys, have heard the spirit of what this American-born prophet said, because they write about him. All the European Masons know exactly who Noble Ali is. Except only people don't know is us, and we discredit the prophet. That's the problem with us. All treaties became the supreme law of the land because they are founded upon the trust and principles of a free government constitution. But a lot of them was broke. That's why when people talk about some consular courts, man, the only that's still abiding if a Moor kill a U.S. citizen, or if a U.S. citizen kill a Moor, that Moor want to be judged in the same parameters as that U.S. citizen. So, can a Negro, Black, and colored claim brainwash as a defense? No. I'll be telling y'all, you be fraudulent concealed. These Negroes be fraudulent concealed, y'all playing games with y'all. Brainwash is one of the few felonies committed daily through society at large, but restricted to military courts for adjudication. You see? I'm telling y'all, man. They don't know what our prophet was saying about correcting status. You think you're finna go change this day. You don't understand it. That's why I said you want to be taught this. You should want to sit down. Negro, Blacks, and colors, ex-slaves are not citizens by birth or choice. Naturalization. North America is a continent that holds 3 governments: USA, Canada, Mexico, the 13 United States. The 13 United States of that America was brought forth on this continent by theirs, forefathers, they new nation. And for the ex-slaves, the 14th Amendment is not sealed as permanent law, with the power to continue for indefinite time. It is only as stable as the slave labels that is founded upon. So this 14th Amendment is only valid as you continue to be a slave. Stay with me and use these labels. How they gonna have this? How the law gonna be valid if it ain't nothing to identify? Without the existence of the Negro, Black, and Colored, its powers then could only circumscribe real property, personal chattel, not persons, as it does now. And this amendment could still be used for granted privileges and colorable immunities to pacify civil unrest, gay rights, affirmative action, and other civil rights issues as it does today. But the Moorish being themselves and no longer a part of the 14th Amendment, that's why the Bible said, give Caesar back what is his, get that shit back. Then what good would it be without its Negroes? Before the allegations of any crime can be legally arranged, right? Prosecuted or adjudicated, the accuser must first be what? Properly identified. And the lawful jurisdiction over that person must be met. To correct an improper, non-binding, or otherwise ex post facto status, one must simply declare their national personage and pay little to no attention to their improper allegations of the status quo. And I ain't talking about, oh, because you did all this and you gonna attach your name to it. All the crimes you did is over. That ain't what I'm saying. That's why you gotta learn. That's why I'm telling more. They getting it all twisted. You is what you're supposed to be concerned about. Status is proper identification. When something, someplace, or someone is falsely identified, their true value has been misdirected, displaced, and cannot be attained. I'm not Negro, Black, and Colored. When you say that to me, that's offensive. That's anti-Semitic. Hell, that's being discriminatory to me. I'm not no Negro, Black, no color. I ain't no slave. You call anybody call it, I'm going ziggity boom. I'm not no nigger, black, or no slave, and I don't know why we call each other that. I ain't rocking with it. And if a person takes a bottle clearly marked poison with an X, a skull, and crossbones, then pours its venomous contents into a separate bottle labeled cough syrup, that's a crime. But you get the cough syrup and you know Negro, Black, and Color. I'm breaking this down. You still gonna identify to that. Ain't nobody tricking you saying, let me put this poison in a Faygo bottle. You got the poison, like on Bugs Bunny. Let me drink the poison and see what's gonna happen. The contents and the label are incorrect, deceptive, and legally improper. The potency of the poison does not change. And in itself, it's neither criminal nor liable because it's poison. Poison is naturally itself poisonous. Like so, the word Negro, Black, Color, and its evil origins. Poison. Like poison. What? Negro, Black, and Color? Poison. What? Negro, Black, and Color? African American. I quit. My emperor's like, all right, I'm almost done. We about to eat, man. I quit. But come on, man. Come on, man. It's laughable. Because this is lawful. A judge be up there like, well, he's right. I mean, what are y'all talking about? Y'all say y'all Moorish, y'all not following this brother, y'all ain't part of that. Well, that's what you get. Negro, Black, and Color, African American, poison. And do not lose their meaning because of slaves they were attached to. Just because someone said, Negro, Black, and Color are now classified as citizens, subject to the jurisdiction, by no means changes the meaning of the word. No meaning by change the meaning of the word. And like the poison, falsifying the labels is a crime, but does not alter the nature of the truth. For those who have college degrees, like myself and others, make them boast of dual citizenship by using African American, don't mean nothing. I didn't get no education to pump with pride. I got my education to prove what I'm saying and be able to teach my own people and be credible and be a divine minister to all men, to all women. With the hyphen, should take a closer look. And African American is legally no different than the other misnomer of Negro, Black, and Color. No different. Firstly, Africa is a continent that has never been given out continental citizenship in all its history. Plus, it has no flag, constitution, because Africa is neither a country nor government, Secondly, a hyphen joins two words together to make a what? Combined unit of one. In words and spelling, we call that what? A compound word when you talk about the hyphen. Thirdly, an American is of or pertaining to what? The United States. Get your 1828 Webster Dictionary. What it says, an American, the copper color races found here by the Europeans, but you can't find them. They're already here. Message, check, check. When you get your law dictionary, get your 1828 Webster Dictionary. I don't know why you're calling yourself some Negro, black, and color. That ain't it. You an American. What type of American are you? Moorish American? Get your 1828 Webster Dictionary. The Bible tell you the copper color races. What you tripping on? So here's another impossibility, because there is no continental government at large from which to issue credentials of citizenship. So much for as assumed nationality of African America when we talk about the Maya nation. An African American identity is one of the same carousel of unnaturalized and meaningless slave labels as all other Negro, black, and colored misnomers. It's still bottom lines, disclaimer of the 14th Amendment, for what it's worth. The salvaging value in this amendment for the Negro, black, and colored is alarmingly clear. Hence, there is still not a penny worth of difference between a black slave than there is a free black. The status of black was, is, and evermore shall be designed to delude any human to slavery. Its application simply has no other meaning. I'm telling you, the U.S. re-enslaved the people. When you learning law of the U.S. is deliberately designed to appear as a Latin Greco complication of complexities. That's why when I said, people don't know law when they talking a language. When I be breaking legal law down in legal language, they don't know what I'm talking about. I said, I know you just collected the black laws. You don't even have time to read 30 pages. So I know you just highlight what somebody's saying. You can't take none of that crap you talking about nowhere. These legal words, terms, languages that should only be comprehended by the law students like myself and others, and those that really have a profession, particularly strained through the American Bar Association, which don't mean nothing, that you competent in the law. These are those who learn U.S. law and are then qualified to have the title of attorney at law or lawyer of short. Notice the word at law means just what it says. These graduates will always be at the law, but they can never be the law. Stay in the context. The reason why U.S. law seems so complicated, especially to the Negro, black, and color, and to these goose sovereign citizens with fez on, these black dead Negroes with fez on, is because it sits deep in European oldest and strongest governments. Laws in the states are based in the Roman and the Greek governments and clothed in the languages of Rome, Latin, and classical Greek. Now, how many Negro, black, and colored people have Roman and Greek ancestors, or even study the real science to show you the words are synonyms and show you the connection for you won't get caught up in mistranslation or linguistic apartheid? It's all wrapped up in fraternities and Freemasonry. The simple truth about the pseudo-complicated law of the United States is, when I say pseudo, it's fake because it's not complicated. It's the light of a good understanding. It's not complex. One merely needs to see through eyes that are not distorted by falsehood, by masonry, by rhetoric, and that's what we're here to do. The jurisprudence of all U.S. court systems is founded upon two master words, status, jurisdiction. Without these two legal principles, nothing can happen. Nothing. Status, you got to understand what that means. Jurisdiction, you got to understand what that means. So when you talk about the Dred Scott Law of 1857, which the U.S. Supreme Court decided Negroes could never be citizens of the U.S., except this time you got to give the old Dred Scott Bey his true Moorish identity. And according to Article 3, Section 2 of the U.S. Constitution, stay with me because I'm almost done, you can expose a case of controversy with which the United States shall be a party. Legally, all so-called Negro, black, and colored people were and are declared labels and names of slavery as property. These marks were first introduced through the Black Codes of Law of 1774, replacing the true identity and tribal names of the enslaved Americans. So you got to understand and think back in your hippocampus. Blacks are made where? In America. Never imported. Stay in the science. In 1779, Congress ratified these labels as slavery as an American institution, lasted until 1865 during the time of lawful slavery. When you understand the 14th and the 15th Amendment, when I talk about machination of Amaya people, these labels are encompassed in what? The 3/5 clause. Legally, the institution of slavery was abolished by the 13th Amendment and ratified by Congress, except when imposed upon duly convicted felons, but also that year from wishful masters, men of means, and judges, the rose such as clatter. It was the word abolish. Now, on what earth can be the matter? There is something about the word abolish that has pissed off every European Mason, every Klansman, and every other so-called God-fearing Confederate American since 1865. And this something will also tick off most ex-slave beyond tictivity if they knew what it means. So let's look at the legal definition of abolish, found in y'all love the Black Law Dictionary, which y'all love reading. Abolish, to do away with wholly, to annul, to repeal, to rescind, to abrogate, to dispense with, applies particularly to the things of a permanent nature. You hear that? Such as institutions, usage, customs. As the abolishment of slavery, abolishment, see abolish. So lawfully, abolishment in 1865 meant outwent the slave identities, Negro, black, and colored. Also the slave masters, everything, place, person, and letter that compiled the institution of slavery were all declared what? Out of law with the absolute word abolish. I'm telling you, come on right here. Put me on the panel. I bet you they won't show up. All them educators, when they had them rappers on that panel with all them so-called educators, they gonna sit on their hands and they gonna bite their fingers. Look at their fingers. They be looking all ugly. Because they gonna bite their fingers down to the nub. You can't deny what I'm saying. And it would dispense with through the application of the things of permanent nature, such as slaves, slave masters, and usage of slave names, Negro, black, and colored, and customs of denationalization by the letter of the law. And when and whatever has been abolished, all that it constitutes is also rescinded, and there can be no more of that especial entity. But often, when it comes to European laws, the spirit of the law was contrary to its letter of the law. In summary, what actually took place was the 13th Amendment constituted the supreme law effort of the United States to complete the maximum of what it could possibly do to end slavery within its jurisdiction. The U.S. of A. does not have the power to free any of ex-slaves. This they must do for what? Themselves. When I talk about proclaim, declare, and have a due process, when I talk about I'm a tribal leader, when I talk about the religious rights of the indigenous people, when I talk about the Declaration of Human Rights, Article 15, House Joint Resolution 75, the SN 181 form, the religious rights of the indigenous people. It's something we have to do and have to understand that we have the right to have our tribal leader, have to self-identify, not to change who we are, because we in two jurisdictions. You got to understand this. However, in the Reconstruction Amendment is freedom of the slaves declared. Only the abolishment of the institution of slavery, the abolishment or the idea of slavery, the institution of slavery. This is why only 2 of the original 20 sections of the 13th Amendment was ratified by Congress. That's why they only took 2 of the 20 sections. Are you rocking with me? You should read all the rest of the 18. The slaves were freed from the southern state plantation owners in 1865. And 3 years later, 1868, through the 14th Amendment, the ex-slaves were unionized and became property subject of jurisdiction of the entire United States. Wards of the state, courts whereby they reside. Come on, man. People be thinking about you got to go change your birth certificate. I just told you no. All people who are free nationals are born with the inalienable right to the inherent nationality of their foremothers and forefathers. When I talk about annexation, you don't see no Chinese with no other name that don't represent who they are, German, Egyptian, or Moorish. Any act, lawful or disguised, which deprives a person or people of this birthright given by the Creator is an act of what? Denationalization and genocide. I just gave you the laws which say you can do exactly what I'm saying. And then what trumps it is you be part of a tribe and the tribal laws. Add on to that. These are the first degree criminal violations for any government to attack upon a people. And these fake Moors, we talk about they can nationalize somebody. All that too. The colorable amendments to its constitutional laws. Hence, formal charges. What? Charges against the United States of these Americas? Oh, Lord. You think I lost my mind. But not one drop of oil left in the engine, you would say. That's why nearly all lawyers and judges will slap a Negro, black and colored, in the face with statements like this. The 14th Amendment overrode the Dred Scott case and made the Negro currently African-American citizens of the U.S. Bull crap. We almost done. We finna drum roll. Let's deal with it. These lying lawyers. Go in your Bible. The Bible says, "Woe to you, lying lawyers!" Just like our brother, peace be upon him, Khalid Muhammad, debated the European. I shared it on YouTube. Woe to you, lying lawyers! I don't care because you passed no bar. That don't mean you competent in no law. I debated law students. Man, made them cry. And or they, the Negro, black, and colored, are United States citizens by birth in the state of Virginia, Maryland, New York City, etc., and thus subject to the jurisdiction of federal courts. Truth is, your lawyer buddy, or I gotta call my lawyer buddy, man, poo diddly. Especially if he or she also claims to be a Negro, black, and colored. Well, that's Trump bad. Has never been introduced to this level of law and history, or they would have my pen in their hand. They would. They'll be like, he's telling you the truth. Would the same master that enslaved you also educate you to be greater than him? Hell no. This is why it is written in the Bible, no slave is greater than his master. With this said, I'm going to return to the science of the exuding of the nation. This confirmation is in dire violation of the U.S. Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, CL 3, and 10, which is ex post facto, and the courts that enforce these laws are criminally liable. You ain't got to check me. Read the shit. Fact, all slave names, slave master, and slave were what? Legally abolished in 1865. The slave identifying marks of Negro, black, and colored, which were names given to those enslaved, were also voided with their institution because these names were applied to captured and imported African Moors, were demorable, and an act of denationalization, which placed them out of their proper person. Only thing you do is annex your El Obey would put you back to your proper person to be treated unfairly and unjustly. Hence, the Negro, black, and colored is lawfully 3/5 of all persons still. And you're going to get these rappers with all of us on TV, we Negro, black, and colored, and talk about black people finna get some reparations. You ain't. You always been a slave. The only people that got paid for a slave in history was the master. And these names that you give to slavery, you never going to get nothing. What a slave going to get? This is too simple. I'm giving you laws. I don't care if you call yourself no Moorish American. You should understand this to do things the right way. What should we call ourselves? Moors? Yes. Moorish Americans? Yes. Yes. You want me to say it any other way? Yes. 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 We all should call ourselves Moorish American on paper. What's your nationality? Moorish American. What's your race? Asiatic. What's your status? Free white. You should come to an agreement of that. And then it goes to the world court. If nationality is the order of the day, if not, you plan. And all these Negro groups coming together talk about reparations now. All these Negroes arguing with each other. You got old ass Moors making video clips with other black rights people. I said, all y'all goofy. All y'all goofy because this is a joke and a money grab. You marching, your shoes gonna get dirty. I pay too much for my shoes. How about that? To do some dumb stuff. Think about it. Think about it, please. For one tittle. But you're not. They don't. It's crazy. I told y'all how this happened. You got to free yourself. You got to. You got to correct who you are. Understand that. You got to understand all that. You get all this that derive from your people of the birthright given by the Creator is an act of denationalization and genocide. That's why I tell you all this, so you can be clear. The United States citizens by birth in the state, all this stuff as I just broke down. All exonation break all this down. According to federal rule, Title 18, Section 241 and 242, no one has the right, especially under cages and courts, to denationalize, deprive rights and privileges or immunities by reason of color or race. Now, if that's a crime for the government, it's a crime for these goofy Negroes talking about, oh, they can nationalize. No man have the right to nationalize or denationalize you. I told you, these Negroes putting you back in slavery. I'm giving you law. And then you don't go to some Negro talking about, oh, I nationalized. Look at I got nationalized. Crime, crime, crime. Crime, 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 crime. You see it. You talk about the government doing it, these Negroes doing it. So now what? Turn that eye around. I'm illuminating y'all, man. They ain't sharing it with you. I told y'all the shit that they hold in their hand would burn their freaking fingertips off. No one has the right to nationalize and denationalize. Tell them Negroes to nationalize the Chinese or Sudanese. They can't do that. Only thing them Negroes can do is make you a Freemason or give you some damn monopoly shit. Whereas the courts are hereby demanded to prove that Negro, black, and color is a lawful status with a descendant nature within the scope of nationality or national origin of forefathers equal to all other people. Furthermore, prove this addition: Negro, black, color is declared property, and no property can testify against itself in any court of law. Y'all go there and testify. I tell you, you got a right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will be used against you in a court of law. You think you so smart. You get pulled over by a cop. You just gonna, you don't know this? Nah, fool. Shut up. And in addition, Negro, black, and color is declared property. And property can't testify against itself in law. Only its owner must appear. Therefore, who owns the Negro, black, and color? That was declared out in 1865. The institution of slavery, right? In the appearance of the rightful owner of property, not the property required to answer in a court of law. Courts enforcing mere statuses do not act judicially, but mere ministerially. You will hear the language, thus having no judicial immunity, and unlike courts of law, do not obtain jurisdiction by service of process, nor even arrest and compelled appearance. See Boswell versus Otis, 9, How.336-348. So, like I say, man, my people are lost due to a lack of knowledge because they refuse to learn. A Negro is going to still be out here criminals. Talk about somebody nationalize you. I done broke down all the laws. For y'all. The 13th and the 14th and 15th Amendment broke down everything, real simple. If anybody still talk about that Negro, black, and color stuff, and somebody talk about you finna meet somebody and you said some more finna nationalize you, you've been lied to. You know it. I just broke it down. Very simple. Right? It should be no confusion. Broke it down. You've been lied to. So with that being said, man, I love you all. Like I said, if Morris want to give a $40 donation, I'll send you a PDF copy of Exhumed of the Nation. You can go to Office Max and Staples and print it and bind it for you. It's $203 on Amazon. If you want to support Jeff Bezos, so be it. I ain't gonna hate on nobody. Don't make me no difference. But if you're more and you into the science and you want to get things of value and books and things, and I can help you get it for smaller prices, you can get this book PDF, download it on your tablet, go to Office Max and Staples, and they'll print it and bind it for you. Only today. If not, after today, if you ain't donate today, you can go on our company page. It's mypdfbooks.com, and it's available on there with other expensive books. With that being said, I love y'all, man. I give y'all light, and light gives light to understanding. No one can nationalize you or denationalize you. No man, no temple, no God man has the power to do that. Remember that. I'm here to teach you. I'm a map and a guide and a tribal leader, and I can lead you the right way and support something that's bigger than yourself. Our 3rd annual Morris Ball is getting ready to come up January 6th, 7th, and 8th. And if you'd like to be a donor, man, it's only a $40 a month pledge, a $40 donation, and you will get literature every month. You'll get access to come to class. You'll be able to view our workout. And also, you will be able to see all the ministries that we provide, show you how to set up your business and all these other things that we provide for self. So with that being said, man, once again, this piece of literature, the books, that was the Cannabis Christ. I have that available too. That's a lot of stuff with Haile Selassie on it. It breaks down the Shishat, all that. All that stuff is available. And I did teachings on that. And so, like I say, man, more should be connected and learn. I have, just like the book Russian Icons, that's worth thousands of dollars that people just be talking about on TikTok, talk about look at the ancient black. And I'm like, you done, because nobody called themselves ancient and black. Black wasn't used to describe ethnicity in the first century. And if you don't have it and can touch it, you can't speak on something. It wasn't no dark ages for us. And you can get that from me. I don't have it on my company page yet, but you can get that from me when I be lecturing and things. I'm getting ready to go to the museum. After our meet and greet, I'm getting ready to start traveling again. You know, and I'll show you the Russian Icon Museum. It's here in the States. I'm gonna take you to Louisiana, show you the ground plan for Louisiana Purchase. I'm gonna go to Cancun, Mexico, and show you the Olmec Museum. I'm gonna go back to Michigan and go to Big Rapids and take you to the Jim Crow Museum, where I got all those books and stuff. So I have a full library, and I petition more. So if you want to learn, we're here. You don't have to go to other platforms and spend a whole bunch of money for paper. And then if you lose it, and then if you don't read it, you really want to spend that much money for this? You really want to spend $203 for something this big? You can't even share it with your friends. What if you got a noble that's dealing with you and you talking about it, maybe don't understand it, and they say, well, man, I want to touch it too and have it, and let me tune on to the sheik that teach it, that don't need the book. He'd be like, man, I'll teach it. You can go buy the book and have the book in front of you. You can be able to provide that for your friend, because that book becomes an NFT. It becomes electric. That $40, or when you go on my page, whatever it costs. But today, if you got this for $40, man, it's an NFT. You have it downloaded on your tablet, and you go to Office Max and Staples and have them printed. And then if your friend want it, you can give it to them for the same price. It became electric. And then I have information that books and stuff nobody have. Like I talk about Atlantis of the latter days, that European Masons be thinking heavy, and I did a whole lecture on that on campus. Had them European Masons and professors sitting on their hands. I said, oh, this elementary science. This El Elyon ain't no heavy science. This ain't nothing but the Osiris mysteries. Had them looking stupid like near. Yeah, you can quit that lower level snowman wisdom with me. No disrespect. I tell people I'm transparent. I'm part of the Philosophical Research Society. You're dealing with 99 degrees. Nobody gonna come to me playing or with no fake fraternities, with no black masonry and then try to say what I am or what I'm not. I'm not taking it. And so I built a platform for us to learn, and everybody deal with me. Professors, college students, they get their fezes from me, regalia. All my European Jews, all my rabbis, they get their yarmulkes from me, their talents, everything. They get all their material from me. All my Jewish colleagues that go to college, they get all their ancient Jewish books. That's how they graduate with honors, because the libraries don't have this. All the books that I have to trump this. I went through the fire. I've been through the fire just like the prophet did. That's why I can exhume the nation. I can reach right back and teach the truth. I can use all those European books and say, you lying, and prove who I am and who you are in the books, with their books, with all the encyclopedias, with everything, and then use their books before I even get into our scholars. I've done it already, and now I have a full library. It's no reason for Moors to go nowhere else. It's no reason for us to promote this. If we made Jeff Bezos a millionaire for selling our books and selling fezes and selling all our regalia and turbans and shit, we ain't gonna make Moors haberdasher rich. That shit sad as hell. Or because they can devalue our shit. As I continue to make more money, I can make stuff cheaper. That's the whole thing about understanding about getting things manufactured here in the States. When you look at things like Shark Tank, and people don't understand, yes, you want to get things manufactured here, but sometimes the cost is not right, and you gotta get your demand and get your money right before you can spend on that. But what I don't understand is we'd go to all these other platforms and spend on all our books and spend a certain amount of dollar and not have them. Just like this. Why would you spend $203 on this and you can go on mypdfbooks.com, that's books with a Z, and get the book for like $75? A Negro will say, oh, I want to write a book. Is it the whole book? Yeah, I read every book. Yeah, it's all the pages. That's lazy. Oh, okay, I want to buy the book. So you would go and spend $230 on Amazon. Just like I told my sister. See, I'm transparent. I don't care. My Empress sitting right here. I told my sister, it's okay if you put your books on Amazon, but I know how much you're going to get for your book. They're going to tell you how much they're going to sell it for, depending on the pages. And if they sell your book for like $12, they give your ass $1 and change. I have all college students, professor, get books for me. I have people hit me up. Hey, Sheik, do you got this book? I just want to make sure you got this book before I waste money. I would tell my friend, I don't go to Amazon. I check with you. And then when people get books for me, I give them extra and bonus books. That's why I said when my flesh goes, there's going to be so many people at my eulogy, college students, European students, and all that stuff that's going to be there to be like, yes, like this man is doing this. Y'all ain't know? Like y'all wasn't doing this for this while this man was there? Like we got our library, like all these books that cost thousands of dollars. He has converted to PDF. We get them from him. Like what y'all talking about? Like what? All books, every book that you may think. I got books that cost thousands of dollars. Just like I got the book called Melanin, the Key to Blackness. That book on Amazon, the $500. Dr. Africa did a whole lecture on it. I narrated the whole lecture on YouTube. That book is $500. You know who got that book? All my students at GCU, the ones that I tutor, because they be into that stuff. When I talk about your body is the temple, Moors to say they exhumed of the nation. They'll correct all that stuff. All the science we have, man, Moore should be going there, getting literature, and then being a part of the book club, coming to learn. Understanding the right way, because I teach everything. I teach simultaneously in the DAP class. Morris, y'all be missing it. Every book that I have, every book that you will see, I lecture it and I teach it. And that's why I ask everybody to come join us privately on Zoom. But Morris don't want to give donations to the teaching. And I say, why? When you give donation to the teaching, I'm going to give you literature. It's a suggested donation. If I say, hey, man, you come to my lecture and all I ask is a $25 donation, you're just not going to hear the lecture. You're going to get literature. You're going to get books. If you come to a scheduled speaking like today with a scheduled speaking, a lot of the stuff that I speak on that I've done at the college campus, I come right back on here on YouTube. Nobody give no donations. You think I'm going to keep doing this shit? And on the college campus, I have 45 and 50 students. Give 25 and be like, well, no, we got to give you more. And give a $50 donation, and I'll give them literature. And the literature that I give, it be worth way more than the donation they give. I get them with like $300 worth of books. Why? Because I am the source. You can't do that. When you go to Amazon and buy books, you get one book, you don't get no deal. You like paying for paper. And when you connect it to your brother, that's why I said we make all these other people rich, but we don't make ourselves rich. I know more. I got my feds off Amazon. Why? Because you got it cheap. It ain't anointed. Your feds don't even have a tassel on it. You don't even know what your feds represent. You won't even wear your feds. That's what Negroes do. They always want to get shit cheap, but they go to the malls and go to the dispensary and be a dressed up monkey. Won't get a feds, won't get no regalia, won't go on mooreshaberdasher.com and do nothing. We're an organization, just like if it's a church body, we can have businesses. This is part of our organization. This is part of our community. Our regalia is a part of our life. Oh, and we don't do business with each other. So everybody's just going to go to Amazon. Everybody say they more than I ain't dissing Amazon. I ain't dissing Barnes and Nobles and all those platforms. But that's what we going to do. And then when the Moors have business, nobody do business with the Moor, but every other nationality do business with me. That's what everybody said was going to happen. That's why I tell people a prophet and an angel is no good in his own country. That's why I could go other places and everybody deal with me, but my own people won't. They said, we Moors. And I said, well, where your feds? Where you get your literature from? Oh, I went to Amazon and got this book. Oh man, I spent $500 on Amazon, and the Empress jumped in the Goofy Negro page. She said, you went to Amazon and spent $500 for that? You could have spent that much with the Sheik and got thousands of dollars worth of books, but you won't spend $500 at a time with a Sheik that'll give you way more than what you pay for? Goofy. And she said, you go to Office Max and Staples and print it and have it bind? It don't make sense. And that's what I be saying. Our people crazy. And other people take advantage of all this. All the European Masons out here, they deal with me. They get their pheasant from me. Everyone, they get their regalia. I say, why not you? Why Moors don't go to mypdfbooks.com? Why Moors don't deal with mooreshaberdasher.com? Why Moors don't come to class? Why Moors check out our Temple and School webpage, bbtsciencetemple.com, and see if we teaching anything that's wrong. See if we teaching the perfected man. Check out our school and see what we all about. See what we all about first before just asking a whole bunch of questions, just like everybody else do. Everybody look me up. How I operate out here in Arizona, everybody know who I am before I come. Moorish rabbi, educator, teacher, love everyone, willing to do what it takes for everything. So why our own people don't support? That'd be the sad part of what we doing. I say, man, I can have everything for our people. They say they don't have. They say they don't have Feds. They say they don't have this book. They say they don't have this. They ask about it. They go right to Amazon and pay top dollar. I have water for 75 cents. Oh, shoot, that's too much. You'll go buy water for somebody else for $2. That shit crazy. And they like, well, your she got it for 75, and they giving you value and the money in the community. That shit don't make sense, man. So with that being said, I love y'all, man. And I give y'all honor, and I give y'all gratitude. But we're an institution, and we're here to learn, and we have the right to do all this. As I broke down the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th Amendment, this stuff should be clear. If you're not clear, then you are the problem. And if you want to give a donation to Cash App, $KGBay, if you have that on your heart to give, give. I don't care if it's $5, I don't care if it's $1, it's all good. Just like when I do lectures and a person really, really serious, I had an empress that was going through something. She really wanted to science. I said, I'm the source. I don't represent nobody else. I said, it's just as good. If you don't have it and all you got is $10 and I say it's a $40 donation, I'm going to give it to you. Why? Because that's what I do. I want you to have it if that's all you have, because you come from the heart. And I know when you come from the heart, when you get into the better situations happen for you and me. I'm all for that. That's why I ask for suggested donations when I do this, and I still give you the wisdom for a small donation. I love y'all, man, and peace. But I'm hungry.